I'm Ethan Caldwell, 34, a wildlife photographer from Raleigh, North Carolina. I've built a career capturing the raw beauty of nature. Think grizzlies in Alaska or condors for Audubon. It's not just a job, it's my life. But to my in-laws, Margaret and Richard, I'm a drifter with a camera unworthy of their daughter Claire. Richard, a hedge fund tycoon, measures worth in private jets and offshore accounts. Margaret, with her country club charm, hides her disdain behind smiles, calling my work cute while pushing Claire toward better men, like her ex, a neurosurgeon named Victor. Every Sunday dinner at their mansion felt like a trial. Richard grilled me on my income, sneering, "How's the photo hustle? Ethan paid the rent." Yet Claire's hand would find mine under the table, her silent apology for their venom. I'd grit my teeth thinking of her love for them and play nice. But last fall, at Margaret's 60th birthday gala, everything changed. I'd just returned from a grueling Yellowstone shoot, frostbitten and exhausted, but Claire begged me to attend. "Just a few hours," she said. I ignored the dread in my gut. At the party, Margaret cornered me in the kitchen, her diamond earrings glinting as she handed me a martini. "Special for my favorite son-in-law," she purred, but her eyes flickered nervously. I saw her slip something into the glass, a clear liquid from a tiny vial tucked away as I approached. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a cocktail, it was a setup. I thanked her, heart pounding, and carried the glass to the dining room. Richard, distracted by his phone, didn't notice when I swapped his drink with mine. "Martini, sir," I said, sliding the tampered glass his way. He downed it in one gulp. 30 minutes later, he was clutching his stomach, face ashen, stumbling to the bathroom. The sounds of his retching echoed through the house. Margaret's gaze locked on mine, her smile gone. She knew I'd switched the glasses, and I knew she'd tried to drug me. That night, as Claire fussed over her father's food poisoning, I pocketed the untouched glass meant for me. My anger wasn't loud. It was a cold, sharp resolve. Margaret and Richard had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let it slide. But I wouldn't fight like them with lies and schemes. I'd expose them piece by piece until their perfect world crumbled. The moment we left Margaret and Richard's mansion, I knew I couldn't let this go. Claire was shaken, blaming bad shrimp for her father's illness. But I saw the truth in Margaret's panicked eyes. She'd meant that drink for me. The glass I'd pocketed sat heavy in my coat, a silent accusation. I didn't tell Claire yet. I needed proof, something undeniable, to shatter her parents' perfect facade. The next day, I took the glass to a friend, Alex, who ran a toxicology lab for a pharmaceutical company. "Personal favor," I said, handing him the evidence. "Test it, no questions." 3 days later, he called, his voice tense. "Ethan, there's a high dose of midazolam in here. Prescription sedative. Strong enough to knock you out for hours, maybe mess with your memory. Where'd you get this?" I dodged the question, asking for a full report. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about making me sick. Margaret wanted me incapacitated, maybe to stage something worse. I dug deeper. A contact at the local pharmacy owed me a favor from a wedding shoot. She pulled Margaret's records prescriptions for midazolam and Xanax from 3 different doctors, overlapping dates enough pills to supply a small hospital. Rumors swirled. Margaret had been caught slipping sedatives into a rival's drink at a country club gala years ago, hushed up with Richard's money. Then I found a police report, buried deep in public records, about a misunderstanding at a neighbor's party, where Margaret was accused of tampering with a guest's wine. The pattern was chilling. I realized her plan drug me at the gala, let me collapse publicly, maybe even stage an accident or scandal to ruin my reputation. Claire had mentioned a big gallery opening I had coming up, a career-defining event with editors from Vogue and National Geographic. Margaret wanted me to miss it, to paint me as a flake to Claire and the world. But why I hacked into an old email account Margaret used for her charity board, don't ask how. I know a guy. One message to Richard, sent weeks before the gala, stopped me cold. Ethan's getting too influential with Claire. We need her back home with Victor. A little incident at the gala should do it. They weren't just undermining me, they were orchestrating a divorce, plotting to pull Claire back under their control. Victor, her ex, was their golden boy, a neurosurgeon with a trust fund. I remembered Claire's stories of how her parents adored him, how they'd cried when she ended it. Now it clicked. They'd never let her go. My anger turned to ice. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for Claire's freedom. I kept it from Claire, knowing she'd defend her parents out of love. Instead, I set a trap. Margaret had asked me to photograph her for a charity profile, a perfect chance to confront her alone. I packed my camera bag, slipped the toxicology report inside, and prepared to make her squirm. The air in Margaret and Richard's mansion felt suffocating as I arrived for the so-called charity photo shoot. Margaret greeted me in a tailored dress, her smile as fake as her pearls. But her hands trembled when she saw my camera bag. Richard was conveniently at his office, leaving us alone. Perfect. I set up my tripod, slowly, letting the silence build, then pulled out an envelope with the toxicology report and pharmacy records. Before we start, I said, my voice steady, "You should see this." I handed her the envelope. Her face paled as she scanned the lab results, midazolam in the martini, and the list of her prescriptions triple dosed across doctors. "This is ridiculous," she stammered, but her voice cracked. "You can't prove anything." "I saw you spike my drink, Margaret, and I swapped it with Richard's. That's why he was vomiting at your gala." Her eyes widened, but I wasn't done. "I also found your email to Richard, planning to ruin me at my gallery opening to push Claire back to Victor." "That's low even for you." Her composure shattered. "You're nothing but a leech. Ethan Clare deserves better. A man with real ambition, not some starving artist." Her venom spilled out, confirming everything. "I didn't want to hurt you, just make you look unreliable. A little blackout, a missed event, and Claire would see you for the failure you are." I leaned in, voice cold. "Drugging your daughter's husband is your idea of protection. Here's the deal. You tell Richard what you did, and you both start treating me like family. Or I show Claire the report, the emails, and the rumors about your country club stunts. She'll know exactly who you are." Margaret laughed, a brittle sound. "Claire will never believe you over me. I'm her mother." But her eyes darted nervously. She wasn't sure. I picked up my bag. "Test that theory. You've got 1 week before I show her everything, including the police report from that wine incident at your neighbor's." I left without taking a single photo, her stunned silence ringing in my ears. That night, Margaret called Claire, spinning a tale of how I'd threatened her during the shoot, claiming I was unhinged. Claire confronted me, eyes red, torn between her mother's lies and my silence. "What happened, Ethan?" "She says you scared her." I wanted to tell her everything, but I held back. Her trust was fragile, and I needed more than a report to break Margaret's hold. Give me time, I said. I'll show you the truth. For days, Claire was distant, visiting her parents alone, returning with doubts they'd planted. I felt their trap tightening, painting me as the villain. Then a package arrived. No sender, just a USB drive and a note, "You need to see this." Sophie. Sophie was Claire's sister-in-law, married to Claire's brother Nathan. The drive held security footage from the gala, Margaret spiking my drink, me swapping it, and chillingly Margaret later whispering to Richard, "If Ethan keeps digging, we'll need a bigger incident, something permanent." My hands shook. This wasn't just about my career. They were willing to go further to get rid of me. The USB from Sophie was a bombshell. Watching Margaret and Richard casually discuss a permanent solution to my existence sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just about spiking a drink to embarrass me. They were playing a long game to control Claire's life, and I was just the latest obstacle. I called Sophie immediately. "Why send this now?" I asked. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "They did this to me when I married Nathan. Lies, setups, even faked a theft to make me look untrustworthy. It nearly broke us. I can't let them destroy you and Claire too." Sophie revealed more. Margaret and Richard had a history of sabotaging anyone who threatened their grip on their children. Claire's ex Victor wasn't just a breakup. They'd fabricated evidence of an affair, planting texts on his phone through a hired tech guy. Sophie sent me a second file footage from a year earlier showing Margaret and Richard in their study plotting to handle Nathan's engagement to Sophie. "If she won't leave willingly, we'll make her an outcast," Margaret said coldly. Richard nodded, adding a scandal at her firm should do it. I know people. They'd nearly ruined Sophie's career with false accusations, only backing off when Nathan proposed. I dug deeper, contacting Claire's college friend Lena. She hesitated, but confirmed the pattern. Claire's parents drove away anyone who made her independent. Friends, boyfriends, even a professor who mentored her. They spread rumors, paid people off. Victor was the worst. They broke Claire's heart to get her back home. Lena sent me old emails between Claire and Victor, showing how Margaret had sent Claire doctored photos of Victor with another woman. The betrayal was meticulous, calculated. My next move was riskier. I reached out to Victor himself now, a surgeon in Charlotte. He was wary, but agreed to talk after I mentioned the gala incident. "They destroyed us," he admitted. "Margaret sent me a letter offering money to leave Claire quietly. When I refused, they framed me. Claire thought I cheated. She wouldn't listen." He shared screenshots of texts from a burner phone traced to a PI Richard hired. It was a machine. Anyone who empowered Claire was targeted, isolated, erased. Armed with footage emails and Victor's testimony, I felt the weight of their cruelty. This wasn't just about me. It was about Claire's entire life, shaped by their control. I compiled everything onto a drive, but Claire was still distant, caught in her parents' lies. I invited Sophie and Nathan over for dinner, keeping Claire in the dark. Over dessert, I connected my laptop to the TV. "You both need to see this," I said, my voice steady, despite the rage inside. For an hour, we watched the gala footage, Margaret's plotting, Richard's complicity, the emails from Victor. Claire sat, frozen, tears welling. Nathan shook his head, muttering, "This can't be them." Sophie broke the silence. "They did this to me, Nathan. They tried to ruin me because I wasn't their choice. They're doing it to Ethan now." Nathan's face crumpled. He'd been blind to it all. Claire turned to me, voice breaking. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I met her eyes. Because you needed to see it for yourself. Their lies, their control, not just over me, but over you, your whole life. She nodded, tears falling, and whispered, I believe you. The morning after showing Claire and Nathan the footage, Claire was resolute. We're confronting them tonight, she said, her voice steady, but eyes red from crying. All of us, me, you, Nathan, Sophie. No more lies. I nodded, feeling the weight of what was coming. Margaret and Richard had manipulated Claire's life for years, and now we had the evidence to end it. Security footage, emails, Victor's testimony, and Sophie's corroboration. But I knew they'd fight dirty. We arrived at their mansion with my camera bag not for photos, but to record the confrontation. Nathan and Sophie were already there, sitting stiffly in the opulent living room. Richard stood by the bar, sipping bourbon, his confidence unshaken. Margaret's smile was tight, her eyes darting between us. I understand there's been a misunderstanding, Richard began, but I cut him off. No misunderstanding. I set up my tripod camera, rolling. This is for the family archives. We're done with your games. Margaret's face twitched. This is private family business, she snapped. Exactly, Claire shot back. And Ethan's family, no matter how hard you've tried to change that. For 2 hours, we laid it bare. I played the gala footage, Margaret spiking my drink, my swap, their argument about a permanent solution. Claire showed the emails from Victor, detailing their fabricated affair. Sophie recounted their campaign against her, backed by footage of their plotting. Nathan, still reeling, added, You tried to control my life, too. I just didn't see it. Margaret and Richard denied everything at first. That footage is edited, Margaret cried. Ethan's manipulating you, Claire. Richard sneered. He's after our money, always has been. But with each denial, I played another clip, showed another email. Their faces drained of color as the evidence piled up. Then came the twist. Sophie revealed a new recording secretly made weeks ago. It captured Margaret on the phone with a shady contact discussing a backup plan if I kept digging a staged car accident to remove Ethan permanently. Claire gasped, covering her mouth. Nathan stood furious. You were going to kill him. Margaret stammered. It was just talk. I'd never. But Richard cut her off, his voice cold. You've gone too far, Margaret. For the first time, he looked shaken, realizing the depth of her schemes. Claire stood, tears streaming. You're my parents, but this is unforgivable. You've controlled my life, Victor. My friends, now Ethan. It stops now. Nathan nodded. We're adults. We choose our paths, not you. I handed Richard a USB drive with all the evidence. This stays private for Claire's sake, I said. But if you ever interfere in our lives again, this goes to your country club, your investors, the police. Every dirty secret, Margaret's prescriptions, the PI, the accident plot. Richard's jaw tightened, but he took the drive. For the first time, he didn't argue. Margaret sobbed, not from guilt, but from losing control. As we left, Claire squeezed my hand. They'll try to twist this, she whispered. I smiled grimly. Let them try. We've got the truth. After the showdown, Margaret and Richard went silent. No calls, no texts, just an eerie calm. Claire and Nathan started therapy to untangle years of their parents' manipulation, while Sophie and I stayed vigilant, knowing the fight wasn't over. Claire, now fully on my side, insisted on boundaries. No uninvited visits, no meddling. I kept the USB drive locked away, a silent threat to keep them in line. 3 months later, Claire announced she was pregnant. We told Margaret and Richard at a tense holiday dinner, Their first since the confrontation. Margaret's eyes welled up, but I saw calculation behind her tears. Richard offered a stiff congratulations, then pulled me aside in his study, pouring a scotch I didn't touch. "Ethan, you've proven yourself," he said, voice smooth. "Join my firm partner track 7 figures. For family." His smile was a mask, but I saw the truth, another attempt to buy control to pull me into their world. "No," I said, leaning forward. "You can't buy me, Richard. Claire loves me for who I am, not your version of success. Try this again, and that USB goes public." His facade, cracked eyes narrowing. "Everyone has a price," he hissed. I stood. "Not me. That's why you'll never own Claire." I walked out, leaving him with his untouched scotch and his failure. Weeks later, a certified letter arrived from Richard's lawyer. Inside was the deed to our rental house, now ours, free and clear, and a trust fund for our unborn daughter Lily, with no strings attached. No note, no apology, just cold legal acknowledgement of defeat. I knew it wasn't remorse. Richard didn't have that in him, but it was surrender. They'd lost their grip on Claire. The final twist came unexpectedly. Sophie called, voice shaking. She'd found an encrypted file on Nathan's old laptop, a ledger from Richard's firm. It detailed payments to the PI, who framed Victor, plus bribes, to silence Margaret's country club scandals. More damning, it listed a contact labeled Fixer, tied to the staged accident Margaret had planned for me. Sophie had cracked it open, risking everything. "Nathan's ready to confront them," she said. "He wants to go to the police." I hesitated, exposing this could destroy their empire, but hurt Claire and Lily. Instead, I sent Richard an encrypted email with a single line: "I have the ledger. Stay out of our lives." They did. By summer, our daughter Lily was born. Margaret and Richard visited the hospital bringing gifts, but keeping their distance, no unsolicited advice or control tactics. Months later, they invited us for Christmas, promising a fresh start. Claire agreed, but we set rules we'd stay at a hotel leave when we wanted, and Lily was never alone with them. At the dinner, Richard handed me a glossy brochure, his firm's annual report featuring my photos. A note read, "Hired the best. Thought you'd want this." No gratitude was needed. It was respect hard won. At my gallery opening that spring, Claire stood beside me, Lily on her hip. Friends, clients, even my parents filled the space, admiring my work. Margaret and Richard came briefly. Margaret holding Lily under Claire's watchful eye. Richard shaking my hand with a nod at my photos. They left without a word about my business. Later on our porch, under the stars, Claire asked, "Have they changed?" I shook my head. "No, but they know they can't change us." I didn't win by playing their game. I won by refusing it, protecting my family, with evidence, not schemes. The ledger stayed my insurance, a shadow over their empire. Living well with Claire and Lily on my terms was my revenge. Their control was broken, and that was enough.